Well, good morning, everybody. This is Garrett Reynolds with the Customer Success Group within the CSM Business Unit. So today we are going to be presenting on upgrades, increasing your investment value and reducing the risk of upgrades. So today we have myself, we have Anson Mayers, and Andrew Blaskinsky, who will be talking about various topics around that. So we'll go ahead and move into the presentation. And so, of course, we're going to be talking a few topics today around feature function and a little bit of roadmap. So we do have to call out our safe harbor statement. Anything that you see or hear today, please don't make any decisions based upon those. So the agenda today is really talking about, upgrade drivers. Why should you upgrade? Why will you be upgrading? Minimizing the risk to upgrading. Anson will walk you through that. Testing best practices. That will be the topic that Andrew talks about. And then we'll have some other smaller topics around some upgrade resources and customer story. So really talking about the overall process of upgrades and why you do it and how do you reduce that effort and risk. And then at the end, we'll have some time for some questions and answers. So upgrades, why do you really want to upgrade? So upgrades is really, it's a balancing act. There are a number of different drivers and I won't really, they're obstacles, but they're challenges to your upgrade. So, the obstacles and challenges are really, risk, timing, effort, those different things of actually delivering on a new release. But really the drivers for those tend to be things like supportability. So ServiceNow supports what we call N-2. So we support the current release, which is Kingston, a -2. So that would be Istanbul and Jakarta. And anything outside of that would be out of compliance from a supportability standpoint. So as we deliver our releases, typically every 6 months, you as a customer really need to stay within an N-2 cycle to stay within support. But the other aspects that really drive you to upgrade are around feature function consumption. So, we are delivering features and new functions throughout the year. Hold on, I'm going to mute a few people here. So, feature function consumption. So we are delivering new features with every release, really trying to improve our platform and our products and deliver more value to you as a customer. So the more features and the more enhanced and improved capabilities we have, the more value you will get. And then as we improve our platform and reduce the cost of doing things such as machine learning and being able to automatically do capabilities, we're going to be lowering your long-term cost of delivering on our platform. So the customer service management evolution. So if you look back, ServiceNow, we have been delivering customer service management for about 2.5 years now. We actually started on Geneva. Geneva was kind of our foundational release. We delivered kind of basic customer service management, case management, and portal. In Helsinki, we delivered additional capability. We went through Istanbul into Jakarta, and then we're currently on Kingston. So you can see that in Helsinki, we delivered what we considered the connected customer service, improved data management. There was new self-service portal enhancements around that, proactive communications with the targeted communications feature. And then in Istanbul, we extended it to the B2C realm, so business to consumer. Geneva and Helsinki were really focused on the B2B scenarios. So B2C provided anonymous chat and social integration support, support for order management support, and an intelligent case assignment. Jakarta extended that even further and enhanced the self-service capabilities, launching the new communities product, significant enhancements to knowledge management, pushing us towards a KCS certification. We delivered additional analytics and cost transparency by tying in cost models and financial management into our customer service operations. And then we provided things around field service such as dynamic scheduling, time recording, and skills management. And then with the current release of Kingston, we've really pushed into artificial intelligence. That was the focus. So we delivered machine learning for case categorization and prioritization, additional self-service and community enhancements around gamification and leaderboards, SEO, external knowledge content consumption, and a lot of overall process improvements. So you can see this is the journey, the evolution that we've had so far within customer service management. So just calling out some of the highlights in Kingston. So specifically, community brought in, like I said, gamification, case and knowledge integration, so being able to integrate case and knowledge management into the community's platform. Knowledge management enhancements driving us towards a KCS certification, such as article types, external content search, which was huge. So being able to actually index and consume content that's external to ServiceNow and provide that within your search results within ServiceNow. Within case management, we provided improved and automated case escalation, time recording, and various other feedback that we get from our customers. And then in Kingston, one of the big highlights was also the introduction of machine learning. So being able to provide automated case categorization through machine learning modeling. So that was really our introduction and first step into the machine learning space within our platform. And you'll see a lot more of that really to come. So in London, which is coming out in the next month or so, you can see our focus is really around agent workspace, a unified customer engagement, and knowledge management. So really optimizing the agent workspace and that internal work process and paradigm. So a more modern UI, contextual help, rolling out virtual agents and providing a seamless handoff between virtual agents and virtual chatbots to live agents. So really tying in the machine learning and smart platform capabilities with the customer engagement and the agent optimization. So you can see there's a lot of really good things coming within the London release, as well as major issues management. And on the platform, we have one of the big things that a lot of people have been asking for some time now is the custom URL, the vanity URL. So in the London release, we are going to provide full capability for all customers to actually specify their own URLs for their CSM portals. So that was a really big win for us on the platform side. So all of these are the features and functions, the evolution of our product, which is hopefully driving you to consume upgrades faster and more often. So quick glance at kind of a 3-year roadmap. These are really the themes and chapters that we're looking at providing over the next number of years. So really focus on, an effortless customer experience, a connected agent experience, and proactive service management, and then securing and growing recurring revenue. So if you look at these, in the beginning, we're going to be focused on channel optimization. We're going to be providing capabilities around in-app support and journey orchestration, service workspace with predictive intelligence. So this is the agent optimization which is basically providing a more modern UI with a much more optimized experience for the agents, tied in with our smart platform. And then from a proactive service management standpoint, we're moving into predictive field service and providing a packaged industry solutions, so different verticalized solutions within the industries. And then, of course, within the platform, we're making huge investments in our platform that will really support all of those. And the themes around those are really focused around omni-channel, agent experience and optimization, and the smart platform. So, like I said, those are, really the main drivers to upgrade: supportability, feature function, and value realization from the investment you've made into our platform. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Anson so he can talk about actually how do you upgrade and get to consuming those new features and functions.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. So hello, I'm Anson Mayers. I'm a senior manager in our platform engineering organization. And the focus here, I want to talk to you about the risk and time it takes to perform a ServiceNow upgrade. So we may have a mix on this call of people who have done an upgrade or people who haven't yet done an upgrade. And different people have upgraded to different versions of the platform, not necessarily the most current ones. So just a level set on what's possible and the practices that are lead to the most efficient upgrades is helpful, especially in terms of, when you want to unlock that value that's being delivered by the engineering teams outside the platform and get those new features into your application. So just before we get started on the upgrade itself, it's helpful to review the ServiceNow release cycle and get just a little bit of terminology in place. So we tend to name our feature releases after sort of important cities in the world alphabetically. So we had Istanbul, Helsinki, Jakarta, Kingston, London is coming out soon. Once you release a family, we bundle up fixes into patches. So a patch may contain, 20 or 80 or 200 fixes. We tend to backport just the fixes that are important, security fixes, things with a big splash radius, stuff like that. Then off of patches, we will cut hotfixes. And a hotfix may or may not contain other hotfixes. It may just fix one problem. So if you're on a patch or trying to go to a patch and there's a blocking issue and you really can't go to another patch, then there's the opportunity to get a hotfix. So when you're on a feature and when you're on a feature release and you're somewhere on this chart, you might be on Helsinki patch 2 hotfix 3. Then when you do an upgrade, there are really sort of two kinds of upgrades, and we have a terminology distinction that we make here at ServiceNow, which is very idiosyncratic and arbitrary. But we say you're upgrading when you're moving to a release that's in a different family. So if you're on Geneva and you move to Helsinki, if you're on Helsinki and you move to London, that's an upgrade because they're different families. And what we mean by that is that there's new functionality that's arriving. You're probably going to have a slower upgrade with more table alters and schema changes. After your upgrade, there's going to be new features in the product for you to integrate with your existing business processes, and maybe whole new features that you're just going to unlock and have fun with. And then patching. And patching also involves an upgrade, but it's upgrading to a release that's in the same family as your current release. For example, you might move from Helsinki patch 1 to Helsinki patch 2, or Kingston patch 3 hotfix 4 to Kingston patch 7. And because both are in the same family, you can expect that the functionality of the product will remain unchanged and that your upgrade will go faster. It's rare to have a schema change, for example, in a patch upgrade. So let's see that drawn out here. So we've got Helsinki over on the left and Istanbul on the right, H and I. So I is the later release. If you're patching, then you're moving within the tree of releases for Helsinki. And if you're upgrading, that means that you're jumping out of the Helsinki tree and into the Istanbul tree Jakarta tree, or the Kingston tree. So when you go to upgrade, we've in the last year and a half, we've introduced some fairly detailed documentation. You can call it best practices if you like, but that helps you with phasing your upgrade and making sure that you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And that's in the release notes. You can just search for upgrade your instance, and this documentation is for all the families that are upgrade targets these days. So I'm showing you the Kingston documentation, but there's documentation for this for Istanbul as well. So what we have is your standard release notes, the changes and features, but then there's some upgrades to that version specific information, and then there's the upgrade overall procedural documentation. So we've got these phases, and we'll walk through them in this presentation, just like you would walk through them in your actual upgrade. First thing that is helpful is the upgrade planning checklist, which is and you can get this in PDF form as well. The task that you want to remember to accomplish in each of the phases, and you can just make sure whether you've done them or not, and whether they're applicable, and keep track of what you're doing. Then each of the phases is documented in a high level, and then we go into the details. So I'm going to kind of play along with some additional pictures over here. When you're getting started, one of the things that you want to think about is your test plan. So what features of the product are you using? What are the ones that are most essential for you to ensure are still functioning properly? Your test plans may be different for patching and for upgrading. Many customers find that for patching, it can take a more surface level approach, especially if they've automated their tests, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then for family releases, there's a more comprehensive test plan. Reading the release notes can inform your test plan. You can see that there are changes in some areas and not others, and tune accordingly. Before you're going to upgrade your development instance, we recommend that you clone your production instance. And if your production instance is large, particularly if you have a lot of audit and log data, large attachments, those sorts of things will alter the amount of time it takes to upgrade the system, because there's a lot more data in some tables. And we have the option, and many people take it when cloning, to make the clone faster by excluding those things. I think these checkboxes are checked by default. So if you want to know how long your upgrade is going to take, you should uncheck those boxes and make sure that you're getting a full dump of the data. Some customers choose to do this in development and again in test, so they kind of have 2 data points on how long they think the upgrade is going to take. Others do a fast clone on development and a slow clone for test. And if you have more instances, you can get even more creative than that. So then scheduling a development instance upgrade is your next step, and you do that in high. For those of you who have been with us for a longer amount of time, there used to be an entitlement system. We've gotten rid of that. So the moment a release is available, you can just go to it. You schedule an upgrade, and the upgrade, the instance checks in with high, and it just asks, am I running the right version? Am I running the right version? And then at some point, high says, no, you're not. And it jumps to the new version. If you have gotten creative, we've got the 2 bullets here about verifying that a pair of sys-triggers are configured properly. There is also a check in the product now. If you're on a new enough version, when you go to the upgrade monitor, there's a warning that your upgrade jobs are not out of the box, and if you'd like to revert them, you can just click the fix button. I'm on one of our demo systems now. That's why the jobs aren't set up correctly, but it's convenient that I can show you the message right here. Scheduling the upgrade is as simple as picking a time. You can change the time later. It helps the ServiceNow to know when you're upgrading. And of course, we have 24/7 support, so you can feel comfortable to schedule that for 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. It'll still work just fine. When you're actually upgrading, we have a feature called the Upgrade Monitor. That's the page we were just looking at. And when your upgrade is over, it gives you a summary report. While it's running, it gives you this multicolored progress bar. It's a little tough to catch it in action on a demo system, because demo systems upgrade quite quickly. So here I'm just giving you a screenshot. You see there's kind of 4 major phases in a family upgrade. The 2 blue bars in the middle tend to take most of the time. And then down below there's a detailed section that shows you what the system is doing right now. So you can see table alters and fix scripts. Some of them may take a little while. And then down below the node upgrades, particularly if you have a large instance, there may be more than 2 icons here representing the nodes that the instance is made of. And you can hover over each of them and see whether they're up or down, whether they're currently upgrading, whether they're going to upgrade soon. And then after the upgrade is complete, you're going to process the skipped records list. So that's worth spending a little more time on. And so we can look at upgrade summary report here. As you can see, the big giant blue number over on the right, that's your skip list. And so what that means is these are the changes that ServiceNow has tried to deliver to you, and they were blocked by something that you were doing. So you may have customized this record in the past. In prior upgrades, we would just tell you that you had a customization, but now we're differentiating between you had a customization and there's actually something for you to do. So you can see here, there's a skip changes to review. So this is something that ServiceNow tried to change, and then there are some unchanged customizations. So these are customizations where ServiceNow did not try and update the record in this particular upgrade, but you customized it in the past, so that's still somewhat interesting. There's changes applied. These are the things that ServiceNow knows it changed in this upgrade. As you can see, I did a patch here. And then the dumpster, as I like to call it, the place where all of the different records were listed. And as you can see, a lot of them say they're unchanged, meaning that part of the way we make the upgrade go fast is if we determine that the record didn't change, we don't even bother to try and load it. So the important thing about the skip list is that when you have a customization, there may be code delivered to you by ServiceNow that you need and that your system will not work properly until you incorporate it into those customizations. The skip list is designed to help you with that. There's a resolution where you can track whether you've dealt with the record. You can comment to leave yourself a note, but also you can go in and compare the record with the stuff that was out of the box. So in the base system, which is what we were trying to upgrade to, this record had a different script and a different accessible from. And so I can choose to just overwrite to match with the left to right button. And with scripts, I can get in and do a detailed analysis. So here we have Code Mirror, and it's showing us that the customization I did was to extract this glide record call into a separate method so that I could invoke it, probably invoking it in some other place as well. And this looks like a fairly safe change. So I can say, okay, I don't need to do anything with this, so I'm just going to say change viewed looks okay. And retained. And now this moves from the skip changes to review to the skip changes reviewed. So get everything from this column to that column, and you're ready to move on. There we go. So once you've done that, you may find that you've actually made some changes to some records. Those will be tracked in update sets. And then you may actually make additional changes. So particularly with a family upgrade, there's some new functionality. You may want to apply your branding to it. You may want to configure it for your business processes, change the choices in a choice list. That's really common. And those things all end up in the update sets that you're building. And then now you want to kind of take that live. So you're going to perform an upgrade on your test instance, but you're going to want to configure it to be the same as your development instance. You're not going to want to have to process the skipped list again. So it makes sense to identify those update sets. These are the ones that contain the changes where I brought back in what ServiceNow did. These are the ones where I customized the new stuff. Before and after upgrading, always make sure to run a validation test. Your test instance is usually where you're working with your subject matter experts and your users to validate your changes. Try and be as unembarrassed as possible when you do that. So knowing whether stuff works really helps. And to automate that, I recommend that you look at the automated testing framework, which Andrew will talk about more in a little bit. So now you're going to move to upgrading and validating your test instance. So you're going to do what we just showed you over again. So you'll schedule the upgrade in high, you'll let it run, but then you'll skip the skip list. You don't have to go in there and do that again. Instead, you just apply those update sets that you identified previously, and then you can run the automated test framework. You can have people come on and do user activities. You can conduct user acceptance testing. Depending on how many test instances you have, you might segment that out and do user acceptance testing later or earlier. But this is the time before you get to production to convince yourself that everything's going to be great. Now, one of the things that's really helpful to do in this phase is to validate the performance. And I think I got a slide here. Yep. So profiling the performance of your instance before upgrading gives you a snapshot that you can use against, when you do your testing after an upgrade. It's great to do that on your test instance. And we've given you a place in the product where you can go and get a bunch of data to help you ascertain what's going on. So the ServiceNow performance homepage is, I surprise a lot of people with this, but it's just it's a core feature of the product. You just go to the home pages, and this is where you have, the welcome to ServiceNow and, the ITIL dashboard and stuff like that. And there's one called ServiceNow Performance. And as you can see here, there's a lot of information here. The transaction volume, the response times, the number of sessions, when people have had to actually wait to get a semaphore, and the amount of scheduler activity, the amount of memory being used. There's a lot of information that you can use to say, wow, there's a real difference between the behavior in the system before and after the upgrade. That's something that I might want to look at. So then once you performed your functional testing and you've monitored the performance of your instance, you're convinced that you're ready to upgrade production, it's time to upgrade production. So schedule that upgrade, track the progress of your upgrade with the upgrade monitor. Once the upgrade is complete, apply those update sets and any post-upgrade activities, fix scripts, what have you. Validate your instance by conducting final round of user acceptance testing. But please don't run the automated testing framework. The automated testing framework is doing stuff with the actual instance. And so, the example I like to give is if you have a test that tests that the CEO is going to get an email if there's a P1 outage. On production, the CEO is actually going to get an email about a fictitious P1 outage, which is probably not what you want. But hopefully, this process has gotten you live. We have customers who have really embraced automated testing and are able to do the whole thing soup to nuts in 2 weeks with minimal user intervention. And I think hopefully all of you can at least approximate that to one degree or another. So like I said, take advantage of the documentation. Following the process makes your upgrades easier and less risky. New features in the upgrade engine, the optimization that I showed you in the skip list makes it easier and faster to upgrade. And leveraging the automated test framework is a great way to really collapse the time frames that you're experiencing during your upgrade. And with that, I think I hand you over to Andrew.
Thanks, Anson. That was really informative. We really appreciate you going through that. All right, Andrew, will you now cover the testing best practices?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Blażejewski. I'm going to be talking about test best practices, and I'm going to cover the following topics. It's a functional test, automated test, and performance test. As Anson described, the user acceptance test is essential during your upgrade. And what we can do is we can focus on very specific types of tests, especially tests can be covered by customers, customer managed, as well as ServiceNow managed test, where we can involve our professional services. The second item is automated test. Anson just described the excellent automated test framework, which is shipped with the product, as well as performance test, which can be done by customers, as well as we can engage our professional services. So what is UAT management services? So the introduction is here. So UAT managed services helps customers during go live and upgrade. It covers end-to-end delivery support. We have different way to test customer business flows. We can design user acceptance test cases for our customers. As well, we can provide support end-to-end flows. The three major areas of focus. First of all, we can work with you, and our professional services will look at your UAT setup. It can be done manual, can be automated using ATF. We can build your test cases, and we can execute your test cases. Here's a quick breakdown of cost, small, standard, and complex for different complexity of business flows. Now, this is just for your reference in case if you want to engage those professional services. Now, if you decide, look, we need to focus on automation and we have to invest in our automated test framework, here's the key items which you have to consider. Well, you can automate most of the manual test cases on our platform. The ATF, Automated Test Framework, is built for technical and non-technical users. So you don't have to really know any programming languages to use that framework. And the coverage is definitely very deep. You can look at server side, you can look at forms, you can test service catalog, and you can test REST API. ATF approach is also covers platform features. You don't need any extra license. It's built in and shipped with our product. You don't have dependency on any external tools. You don't have to set up any servers. It has great feature, which is rollback. So once you run all the test cases, it will roll back to the previous state. So you don't have to deal with any extra data on your system or anything else which remains. You can move test cases from one environment to another using update sets or application files. And you have test steps, so you can add additional test steps as part of your test cases. Now, here's an example where you can focus. You can focus on UI test. The framework can take screenshots. You can have asynchronous calls. You can capture client-side logs. And you can run your tests in different browsers if you worry about different browser support. And here's a couple of examples of test cases. You can impersonate users. You can open a form. You can set specific values. You can, at the end, you can submit a form. Here's another example of server-side test. It runs entirely on a server. It also can mix and match with UI steps, which is one critical item which we have to highlight. Sometimes people under the impression that it can be only UI or server-side. Yeah, you can mix and match. You can test any record, any table. And it supports assertion, so you can assert values. Also, if you use service catalog, there's support for service catalog test as well. And of course, REST API and web services test. Just an FYI, if you have, if you'd like to invest in REST API calls. Now, the great thing about ATF, you can schedule it anytime. So for example, you can schedule your test to be run on a daily basis. You get email, review test results, or you can go directly and look at the test reports. sometimes customer asks, well, can I test forms? Yes. You can upgrade your environment, as we discussed, on non-production instance, and you can test forms, incidents, values, what have you. Business rules and data policy. I think that is a great way to have automated test engaged. So you can look at your business rules and different data policies to have consistent test results scheduled at any point of time. Again, REST API and service catalog calls. You can schedule all the results. So now, once we've done this functional test, shall we look at performance tests? Like, how do we test performance? What is the best way to get the results? Who should test performance? I think it's a very open-ended question, but at the same time, if you have customized your applications, or if you expect a lot of users from different locations to use your system, I think you definitely have to look at load tests. Or for example, if you expect significant growth in the next 6 to 12 months, or you anticipate a major upgrade that may impact your business operations. Yeah, so those items you should definitely consider and look at the load test as one of the items for your upgrade. So what are the key items for performance test? So we should look at isolated instance, and it should be dedicated instance. You cannot run performance tests on your production or sub-production instance. So the idea is customer identifies the instance that they would like to evaluate. So ServiceNow stands up a load instance that matches exactly hardware and software requirement for your production instance. Then we clone this instance, and we run automated tests. Now, there are multiple options here. It can be run either by customer, it's customer managed load test, or it can be run by ServiceNow, professional services. Usually it takes approximately 6 weeks for professional services set up instance and run end-to-end test. Now, in here, we're going to look at 2 different options, and it's up to you how to proceed with this. Either we'll go with ServiceNow managed load test, or we can go with customer managed load test. So if you look at ServiceNow managed load test, at execution, all the load test scenarios done by ServiceNow professional services team. They review the metrics, they simulate production environment, review error logs for potential critical errors, analyze configurations, and report the results. Now, if customer decides to use customer managed load test, so ServiceNow will provide load test instance, but the actual script's execution will be done by customers. Those are 2 major focus points to consider if you'd like to proceed with load test. Here's overall high-level breakdown in 6 weeks, which we just discussed. So first couple of weeks, you provision environment. Professional services would work with you to decide what test cases to execute, what kind of load you would like to get. Then week 5, week 4, the actual test is executed. They will review the results, retest if required, adjust some code to make sure that we have addressed any performance issues. Again, maybe retest again, and week 6 is going to be sign off. I think overall, 5 to 6 weeks is enough to complete load tests for even complex configurations. The best way, contact your sales team, and they'll get you started with professional services. And that's overall my presentation. I can go back and just reiterate again. On the differences between different load tests and functional tests. Yeah, okay. So at high level, if you're interested in ServiceNow managed load test, you can refer to this article. Or if you would like to go with customer managed load test, you can just request instance, and it covers approximately $5K per week, and your sales team can work with you to kick off this process. That's all from my side. Back to you, Garrett.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. That was great. So let me take back control here. All right, so now we've talked about reasons to upgrade, feature, function, support. We've talked about the upgrade process. We've talked about testing, which is a significant aspect and factor within testing. We also want to talk about and provide you some information on upgrade resources. So there are quite a number of different resources out there in the ServiceNow ecosystem and communities to provide you a lot of information on how to do upgrade, how to do testing. So we will be providing this presentation after the webinar is completed, so you'll have access to all of this. But the Champion Enablement Center is a really, really good resource for testing and for upgrades. Provides a lot of templates and different things on how to communicate to your communities, how to plan for your upgrade. And then there's a number of different blogs and posts within our communities. The Kingston Upgrade Planning Checklist is a great checklist to go through as you're planning out your upgrade. And then, of course, we do have other webinars around testing and upgrades. So another thing that we wanted to quickly touch on was an actual example of doing an upgrade. So I was hoping to have a couple of different examples so I could show the spectrum, but I wasn't able to get those together in time. So I do have one story here, which is around Epicor. Epicor is our charter CSM customer. They were our first customer, first ever, and they are actually one of the reasons why some of the functions exist as they exist. They were our design partner for a lot of the knowledge management and self-service. So they are, I believe, the 6th largest ERP software provider in the world. They have 2,500 internal users on the system with 38,000 external users on the system engaging on their various portals. They are using CSM, knowledge management, portal, obviously. They have chat, they have CTI with IVR and screen pops. So they have surveys, performance analytics. So they're using quite the breadth of our CSM platform. And their upgrade complexity was considered high because of a lot of these factors. They were our first customer. They had a fair amount of customizations because being a design partner, they actually consumed some of our beta code. And they were also moving from Geneva to Jakarta. So they were moving quite a number of families, quite a number of steps to get to their target release. Their duration, it actually took them 6 months to do an upgrade from dev to prod. And a lot of that was reviewing the standard functions, reviewing and validating the customizations. So like I said, this is their example is on the high end of customization and effort. because of, like I said, the move between so many releases, but also the level of customization that they had done around that. The actual upgrade itself only took about 8 hours, even with the considerable amount of data that they have. They have a couple of terabytes of data. And then we had them rank their capability in testing. So how did they feel that they were, what their experience level and capability around testing was. And I had ranked those, and here's, between expert, which is a full testing strategy, functional testing, UA testing, performance scalability testing. They have a testing platform, they have an auto-regression policy, so that would be considered an expert, all the way down through experienced, semi-experienced, and a neophyte, somebody that really is just doing the basics of testing. So they considered themselves semi-experienced. They have a partial testing strategy with very minor, limited testing platform capabilities. Most of it is really manual testing. So they're very interested in moving to Jakarta so that they could start leveraging the ATF framework that Andrew talked about and some of the improvements that we've done. So their challenges really resided mostly around the number of releases between their upgrade, source and target, as well as the level of customization. So, and this really lends back to our conversation about why do you upgrade. Upgrading, we support N-2, but we really recommend that customers try to stick to an N-1, really just planning out and having it in your go-forward plan that you'll be consuming an upgrade about every year. That will keep you in N-2 definitely, possibly within N-1. It'll allow you to consume those improvements that we've done, but it also really reduces the effort of doing an upgrade. When you go multiple years and span multiple releases between upgrades, it does really increase the complexity of your upgrade and thus the effort. And you can see that their time spent was really around testing and then cutover planning. They had a very short time window of, when they could be doing their upgrade and when they could be down and things like that. So the big lesson learned that they did was really having tight coordination with ServiceNow on their upgrade and the cutover planning. So we worked very closely with them because of the level of customization that they had done. And really working with them to back out those customizations and move to more standard features that had thus replaced those customizations in the new releases. So this is, like I said, a kind of far left spectrum example of an upgrade. I will be getting more of these and we'll be posting these out on the community so that you can see the differences between, what would be a typical N-1 upgrade versus N-2 and things like that. So really that's the end of our presentation. So we'll move into our question and answer session. Let me make sure that I have everybody unmuted so that anybody can ask any questions that they have. All right. Any questions for anybody out there?
Yeah, Garrett. Favorite. Oh, go ahead.
Thanks, Tina. Garrett, this is Steph from Grocery Outlet. We're planning on doing Kingston upgrade in May-June timeframe. And hearing that London's coming out so soon, there's kind of this tricky balance in our mind of, should we wait until London patch 2 or 3, have a little bit more painful of an upgrade, but not need to upgrade for another 2 releases instead of already being N-1? But I'm worried a little bit, especially with the last example, about going Istanbul to London with a fair amount of customizations in the process.
So I'll give my answer on that. This is Garrett, and then I'll let Andrew and Anson provide any input that they want. So I think it does depend upon your level of customization. That's always a consideration. It also depends on where those customizations are, and we do have, the difference between configuration and customization, and that's an important aspect to understand of, what are the types of things that are going to be impactful to an upgrade and what won't. So that's one factor. And then I agree with your statement that, should you wait, and thus not, have to upgrade again in the near future as quickly. I think that's it's really a balancing act, and it varies from customer to customer. Some customers, are willing and able and want to consume upgrades as soon as they are out. Tata was actually the other example that I was trying to get for you, and I wasn't able to get that in time. But they were the first customer of any of our customers, not even CSM, to go to Kingston. And they did it right out the gate. But that's the type of company they are. They want to consume those, and they have really good testing capabilities, which is another reason why we brought up the aspect of testing is a really important aspect of upgrades. The better your testing capabilities are, the better your automation around that, the lower the effort and the more you are able to consume upgrades faster. So I think that there's no right or wrong answer there. The better your testing capabilities, the more likely you're going to be better prepared to test each release as it comes out and determine whether or not you want to consume that. So if you're the type of company that, will consume releases pretty quickly, so if London comes out and you're the type of company that will consume a release before the second or third or fourth or fifth patch comes out, that's one thing. You may be a company that says, well, we never consume a release until the third or fourth patch is out to make sure it's stable. That's fine too. With your timeline being upgrading in May or June, we will probably already have at least London patch 1 out by then. We do monthly and quarterly patches. So I think that's
correct.
Okay, I'll let Anson correct me on that piece. But I think you're at a very fine line there where you could go either way. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with the level of your complexity of your customization and your testing capabilities. So I'm going to pass it over to Anson and let him add his 2 cents.
Yeah, I think in the May-June timeframe, I don't think London will be out. So I think Garrett's just got the months off in his head. It's easy to do, but with the Knowledge conference coming up, that gives me kind of an anchor. So I know that London's not out at Knowledge, so it's probably not going to be at patch 1 in the May-June timeframe. But in general, one of the challenges with that, getting your automation to the point where your upgrade is cheaper is that we keep adding features to the automated testing framework. So there's this cruel but positive feedback cycle where if you upgrade to a more recent release, then you have more testing tools available to you to make future upgrades less painful. So I would say, the other thing to keep in mind is just being more current means that you have a more active patch cycle to tap into. So, if you have a problem that's confronting you on whatever release you're on, when a release comes out, we have the monthly patch cadence, and that goes for, I think, 6 or 7 months, and then we have quarterly patches after that, and then there's one sort of roll-up patch to end that cycle when you drop off the N-2 train and it's time to upgrade a clock. So there are advantages to being a bit more current, and I think if you have that opportunity, if your users and your management are bought in on, yes, we can upgrade in the May-June timeframe, then I would say go for it and just pick the most recent release that's stable enough for you, which at that point sounds like it would still be Kingston.
Okay.
Was there another question?
No, I was just wondering if anybody else had any input, but that is helpful.
As far as our company, we do every other release. We do releases in the fall, like third quarter, so we skip every other release. We started on Fuji. We're on Jakarta now, which we moved to last fall, and we'll be doing London this fall.
Cool.
We just implemented last summer, so this will be our first upgrade, and that's some of what we're considering. So yeah, it's helpful. That's the goal, every other.
And I think that's a very achievable and realistic goal. And I think that's really what you have to do is figure out what's realistic and achievable, and then just make sure that you have that in your mindset, you know, as you plan forward every year, that you're going to consume and upgrade in whatever, you know, everybody's got their different times of year that are busy or not so busy, but building that into your plan is very important, and just planning it out.
Right.
Any other questions?
Yes, Tina. Garrett will know this is one of our passionate topics, chat. And I'm kind of getting into potential functionality that I know you have your statement about. But I wanted to understand the virtual agent that you mentioned. Is that your upgrade to chat, so to speak, that functionality that's coming out in London?
No, it's actually not well, it is an upgrade to our chat capabilities. So we have made a lot of investments in the omni-channel experience, which includes chat, and as well as in the machine learning and automation AI space. So when you look at the workspace function feature that's coming around chat, you're going to really see a much changed experience there. We'll be supporting, of course, the normal chat that we provide today, the authenticated chat, the anonymous chat, which Genworth, you guys leverage, as well as chatbots and virtual agents. So the virtual agents are chatbots that you can set up that can actually engage directly with customers and answer specific questions and do that low-level engagement. And then we've made them smart enough so that at the point that the virtual agents, the chatbots, cannot handle a situation or a question, it will actually do a smart transfer over to a live agent so that the live agent, the real person, can actually pick up that conversation, engage with a customer, and answer the question that is at hand. So that's really what the virtual agent is about.
Okay. Have there been any changes? Because when we went live, we had a lot of suggestions as to things that would make the current chat better as far as customizations and things like that. Has any of that been incorporated?
Tina, yeah, actually, yes. A lot of that has been incorporated. I can't call out the specifics of every single thing. You and I work through a lot of different enhancement requests that you guys wanted. But, I mean, really the entire chat experience will be completely transformed.
Okay.
So there will be a lot of changes in there. So I would highly recommend that as soon as the release is out, that you engage on that. In fact, you may want to, if you're interested in actually moving to London, I think that's what you said you're going to do, is move to London.
Yeah.
I would recommend requesting to be a part of the early access program so that you can get a instance earlier so that you can start doing that evaluation of, you know, are the new features going to address the needs that you have?
Okay. And I think we did request that, but I think there's been some back and forth, and we haven't been able to set up a time to meet with whomever to get that going. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to Tom Ficario, who's your customer success person, and we will, the three of us will sync up on that.
Okay. Because that and knowledge is a big piece. Because I'm assuming the knowledge, whether, you know, of course it's for CSM, that's the same no matter what. Knowledge search capability and things like that, via BC portal or not, are big topics right now.
Yeah, and knowledge is an area where I feel like we have actually made some of our largest investments is in the knowledge management aspect. So like I said, we have really been driving towards a KCS certification, so a knowledge-centric support certification. And I don't know what our timeline of getting to that is, but it's pretty close. We've come really far. You know, we've provided article versioning. We've really done better integration with our search capabilities. One of the topics there within Kingston was doing external search of knowledge. So not only can you index and search on knowledge that's within our knowledge repository, but you can also index and search knowledge that's in external sources outside of ServiceNow as well. So there's been a significant amount of investment improvement in the knowledge management piece, even from the release that you're on.
Okay, great. One other quick question. The automated test framework, we were hoping to try to take advantage of that last year and weren't able, didn't have the time to do that. How long on a first go-around would you think it would take to set up, you know, pretty baseline test cases to try to make things easier? How long is it going to take us to do that?
So I will actually defer to Andrew to see if he knows that. I'm not as experienced in the ATF framework, but I will let you know that we have a couple of other webinar series that we are planning, and one of those is dedicated around ATF. And we're working with the ATF product management team to put that together. So we will have a much more in-depth set of webinars coming up that further this conversation around testing. So, okay. But I'll defer to Andrew on your question.
Sure. Just to set up basic flows, it will take maybe a couple of days, and we're talking from our own experience because in London we're shipping out-of-the-box sample scripts for CSM business flows. So I would say from a couple of days is somebody already experienced in ATF to maybe a week or two, if you're talking about some simple business flows. Yeah,
ours are not complicated. We're not using the whole breadth of the CSM platform by any extent. So it should be fairly simple as long as the ATF portion is pretty easy.
Right, yeah. So it's shipped out of the box. There's a lot of training on our website. So yeah, I don't expect any major challenges.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from the participants? All right. If there's nothing else, then we'll go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate everybody dialing in and participating in this webinar series. Like I mentioned earlier, we will be providing more of these webinars. Really, with our goal is really just to provide information and uplift your understanding of upgrades, testing, and really allowing you to consume all the work that we've been doing and working hard on to provide you with great products. Thanks again, and I'll talk to everybody soon.
Hey, Garrett.
Yes.
Hey, so sorry. I did not pull myself off mute fast enough, but I have one more quick question.
Sure thing.
What are the best ways to really get a sense comparatively and objectively about how many customizations are a lot of customizations? Like how to scope the upgrade ahead of you? Is working with whatever consultant you might have the best bet? Is working with High to any extent worthwhile? Or is just coming together with your heads together as a team and throwing a dart at the wall kind of our best bet?
Anson, what's your perspective on that?
There isn't really a objective measure of how customized you are versus how configured. You touch records in both cases, and when you run the upgrade and you can do that at any time, right? You can just take your dev instance and upgrade it to Kingston tomorrow if you like, and then clone over it and go back to what you were doing. And at that point, you get a skip list, and the skip list is organized by type of, and the default sort order, which I didn't touch on, uses a priority column, and we assign higher priorities for records that have script in them, HTML, XML, code or presentation logic, and you can get a quick sense of how impactful an upgrade is by the number of things that you've skipped that have a higher priority. Because obviously, if you and ServiceNow are both making changes to a script include, that's more impactful than ServiceNow cleanly added a new role to an ACL that you added a role to as well, right? Yes, as Garrett said, the line between configuration and customization is awfully blurry. So it is difficult to say, but we do have our professional services are people who do answer that question for customers regularly, try and look at what you've done and assess the risk associated with that. And a lot of it comes down to you've done something to a feature that ServiceNow is doing something very similar, or maybe even replacing. You built a feature that you needed, and then we built it because you need it, and now you need to switch to ours. They can identify those things.
Helpful.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Anson.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, with that, we'll call it a day. Feel free to reach out to any of us, or actually, if you would, if you have any questions around this, refer them to me, Garrett Reynolds at ServiceNow, and then I can respond and answer any questions that you have and bring in the right people to answer those. So with that, have a good rest of your day, and we will hopefully see you at the next webinar.